Somewhere in your feed right now, there's a guy in a suit telling you that claiming Social Security at 62 is the single biggest retirement mistake, that it costs the average couple $182,000. And right next to him, there's another guy saying, take it the second you turn 62 before the whole thing goes broke. Here's the truth both of them are skipping. There is no universal right answer. For some people, claiming at 62 is the smartest move they'll ever make. For others, it quietly shrinks the most important check their family will ever depend on. The difference isn't luck, it's 4 things you can actually check about your own life. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which side of that line you're standing on. I'm Jeffrey. On this channel, we do the honest version of retirement math, the SSA rules, the real trade-offs, and a straight, here's who it helps and who it hurts. So here's the deal for the next 20 minutes. I'm going to give you the one number that makes 62 cost what it costs. Then 5 honest reasons 62 can be the right call, and 5 reasons it's a mistake that follows you for the rest of your life. And I'm going to introduce you to 3 people sitting at the exact same age, 62, where the same decision goes 3 completely different directions. One of them is basically you. Meet Linda. She's 62. She just got pushed out of a job she thought she'd keep till 65. Her health is so-so, and her savings are thin. Meet Tom. Also 62, in great health, his dad lived to 94, and he's still pulling in good money consulting 2 days a week. And meet Walter. 62, married, but he's always been the lower earner. His wife Carol is the breadwinner. Same age, same form at the Social Security office. For Linda, claiming now might be the smart play. For Walter, it barely matters. And for Tom, doing what Linda's doing would be one of the costliest money decisions of his life. Keep all 3 in your head. By the end, you'll know which chair you're sitting in. So here's the number everything hangs on. If your full retirement age is 67, that's everyone born in 1960 or later, and you claim the first month you're eligible at 62, you don't get your full benefit. You get 70% of it. That's a 30% cut. And the word that matters most in that sentence is permanent. It does not snap back up when you hit 67. It does not reset. Whatever check you lock in at 62 is the base you live on for the rest of your life. Cost of living raises just get calculated on that smaller number. Wait all the way to 70 instead, and your check is 124% of full. So the person who waits to 70 gets about 77% more every single month than the person who grabbed it at 62. That's the spread we're deciding inside of. Let me make that 30% something you can feel. Picture your full check at 67, and the smaller version of it you'd lock in at 62. B-roll carries the dollars, $2,000, $1,400. That gap is real money, every single month, for the rest of your life, and stretched across a long retirement. That's roughly where the scary $180,000 headline comes from. But here's what the headline leaves out. It only stings that much if you live long enough to collect every one of those checks. If you don't, claiming early was the better deal. Same decision, 2 completely opposite stories. And which one is yours depends entirely on the questions we're about to walk through. These are round illustrations, by the way, not your benefit. Go pull your own at ssa.gov. Now, before anybody panics about that 30%, here's the part the biggest mistake guy never says out loud. A smaller check that starts at 62 is paying you for 5 extra years before the bigger check even turns on. So there's a crossover point, a break-even age, where waiting finally pulls ahead. Run the simple math, and claiming at 62 versus waiting to 67 breaks even somewhere around 78.5, versus waiting to 70, around 80. Here's what that actually means. If you don't make it to your late 70s, the person who claimed at 62 came out ahead. More total dollars in their pocket. So, 62 isn't a mistake or a gift, it's a bet. You're betting on how long you'll live and how much you need the cash now. Hold that idea, because every reason coming up is really just an answer to that one bet. Now, I promised I'd deal with the second guy in your feed, the one yelling to claim at 62 before Social Security runs out of money. Let's be honest about that, because fear is a terrible reason to make a permanent decision. Yes, the trust fund reports do project a shortfall in the early 2030s if Congress does nothing. But here's what running out actually means. Even in the worst case where lawmakers never act, The system keeps collecting payroll taxes, and the projections show it could still pay the large majority of benefits. It does not go to zero. And claiming at 62 to beat that doesn't protect you, it locks in a 30% smaller check for life over a risk that, historically, Congress has always patched before the deadline. Decide based on your health, your income, and your spouse. Do not let a doomsday headline stampede you into the permanent cut. That's exactly the move those fear-driven headlines are counting on. Reason number 1 that 62 can be the right call. Your health or your family history says you may not win the longevity bet. This is Linda's situation, and it's the cleanest case there is. If you've got a serious condition, or the men and women in your family tend to pass in their 70s, then waiting for a bigger check you might not collect long enough to enjoy is the gamble, not claiming early. Linda runs her numbers and sees the break-even sitting at 78. Her mom passed at 74. For her, every year she delays is a year she's betting against her own odds. Taking the smaller check now isn't fear, it's reading the table honestly and playing the hand she was actually dealt. Reason 2. You need the money now, and you don't have a better way to get to 67. This is also Linda. She got pushed out at 62. The job market for a 62-year-old isn't kind, and her savings won't carry her 5 years. The textbook answer is, draw down your savings first and let Social Security grow. Beautiful advice, if you have savings to draw down. Linda doesn't. For her, the real choice isn't 62 versus 70. It's claim at 62 or struggle to pay the bills. When that's the actual decision, the break-even chart is a luxury. A check that's 30% smaller and arrives today beats a perfect check that arrives in 5 years after she's already drained or borrowed her way through them. Cash flow you can survive on beats optimized math. You can't. Quick one before we keep going, because this genuinely helps the channel. Drop a comment and tell me, are you a Linda, a Walter, or a Tom? Just the name. I read these, and the mix tells me what to cover next. Okay, back to it, because the next reason is the one most couples get exactly backwards. Reason 3, and this is Walter. If you're married and you're the lower earner, claiming at 62 usually costs your household far less than people think. And here's the machinery behind that. When one spouse dies, the survivor doesn't keep both checks. They move up to the higher of the two. The two benefits don't stack. So the survivor benefit for that whole household is driven by the higher earner's record. Carol's, not Walter's. Walter's check, whenever he takes it, basically disappears when the first of them passes. So Walter taking his smaller benefit early to get cash flowing while Carol's bigger benefit keeps growing is often a perfectly sound move. The lower earner is the right person to take the early reduction, precisely because their check isn't the one protecting the survivor. Reason 4 is more advanced, but stay with me because it's a real one. Imagine you retire, and that very same month, the market drops 30%. Now, every dollar you pull out of your shrinking accounts to pay the bills is a dollar that can never grow back. Retire into a couple of ugly years like that, and it can quietly wreck a nest egg that would have been perfectly fine if those same bad years had shown up a decade later. Advisors have a name for it, sequence of returns risk. But the plain version is, the order your returns come in matters, not just the average. Here's where Social Security walks in. Claiming at 62 gives you a guaranteed, inflation-protected paycheck that lets you stop selling investments into that down market during the most fragile years. You're using Social Security as a shock absorber, so your portfolio gets time to recover instead of getting cashed out at the bottom. It's not for everyone, and it's a strategy, not a slam dunk. But for the right retiree, claiming early to protect the nest egg is a defensible, grown-up reason, not panic, planning. Okay, up to this point, I've been defending claiming at 62, 4 honest reasons it can be exactly the right call. Now let me show you the people who almost always regret it. Because for a lot of you watching, 62 is the expensive mistake the clickbait guy was actually right about. He just couldn't tell you why. And the number 1 reason is the mirror image of Walter. Meet Tom again. Tom is the higher earner in his marriage. Remember what we just learned. The higher earner's check becomes the survivor benefit that one spouse lives on, alone, possibly for years or decades. If Tom claims at 62 and locks in that 30% cut, he's not just shrinking his own check. He's shrinking the exact check his wife will depend on after he's gone. He's putting the permanent discount on the one benefit in the whole household that should be as large as humanly possible. The second mistake, claiming at 62 while you're still working a real job. This one ambushes people. If you claim before your full retirement age and you keep earning above a yearly limit, Social Security withholds $1 of benefits for every $2 you earn over that limit. So Tom, still consulting for good money, could claim at 62 and watch most of his check get withheld anyway, and still eat the permanent reduction. Now, to be fair and accurate, that withheld money isn't gone forever. At full retirement age, they recompute your benefit upward for the months they held back. But think about what actually happened. He triggered the lifelong 30% cut to receive a check that's barely showing up while he works. He paid the permanent price for almost no current benefit. The earnings limit changes every year, so check the current number at SSA. But the trap is the same. The third mistake, every sign says you're going to live a long time, and you grab the small check anyway. This is Tom's other problem. He's healthy, his father made it to 94, his mother's still going. For Tom, the break-even at 80 isn't a far off maybe. It's a near certainty he'll blow right past. Every year past the break-even that he lives, the wait to 70 version of Tom is winning by a wider margin. When the odds say you'll reach 85, 90, 94, claiming at 62 doesn't protect you from running out of money. It makes running out more likely because you permanently shrank your most reliable lifetime income. For a long-lived person, the bigger delayed check is longevity insurance. Claiming early throws that insurance away right when you're the most likely person to need it. The fourth mistake is quieter, but it's pure lost money. You have savings, or a working spouse, or a pension, something that could carry you from 62 to 67 or 70, and you claim at 62 anyway, out of habit or nerves. Here's the thing to sit with. Every year, you wait past 62 adds roughly 6 to 8% to your check, and it's inflation protected and guaranteed for life. There are very few places in your financial life where you can buy a raise like that with that little risk. So spending down a chunk of savings to delay isn't using up your money. It's trading a pot of money that can run out for a bigger check that never does. If you have the bridge and you don't use it, you're leaving one of the best deals in retirement sitting on the table. Now, what if you're watching this and you already claimed at 62 and your stomach just dropped? Breathe. You have two real do-overs, and almost nobody knows about them. 1. If it's been less than 12 months since you started, you can file Form SSA 521. Withdraw your application entirely, pay back what you've received, and it's as if you never claimed, once per lifetime. You reset, and you can reclaim later at a higher age. 2. Even if it's been longer, the day you reach your full retirement age, you can voluntarily suspend your benefit. You don't pay anything back. And while it's suspended, you earn those delayed credits, about 8% a year, all the way to 70. It can't undo the reduction before FRA, but it stops the bleeding and rebuilds your check from there. So the 62 decision is heavy, but it is not always the final word. One trap I have to clear up, because people tangle these two together constantly. Your Social Security claiming age and your Medicare age are not the same decision. Medicare starts at 65, full stop. If you delay Social Security past 65 to get a bigger check, good for you. But you usually still need to enroll in Medicare at 65, or you risk lifelong late penalties on Part B. The one exception is if you or your spouse still have real employer health coverage from a current job. Then, you get a special enrollment window later. The point is simple. Deciding to wait on Social Security does not mean wait on Medicare. Two separate clocks. Mixing them up is how people accidentally sign up for a penalty that follows them forever. One more group, because a lot of you watching are single now but were married for a long time. If your marriage lasted at least 10 years, you're currently unmarried, and you're 62 or older, you can claim on your ex-spouse's record up to 50% of their full benefit. It does not reduce their check by a penny, their current spouse never finds out, and they don't have to agree to it. Here's why this matters for the 62 decision. If your own benefit is small, that ex-spousal benefit can change the math on whether you claim early at all. So before Linda, or you, files at 62 on a tiny record, the question is whether there's a bigger benefit hiding on a 10-year marriage you've half forgotten about. Always check. The Social Security office will not volunteer it. Let me give you the honest gray area, because I'm not here to scare you into waiting either. There's a fifth reason for 62 that isn't a math win. It's a life call. If you're single, with no spouse whose survivor benefit you're protecting, and you've looked at the break-even and decided you'd rather have the money and the freedom in your 60s than a bigger check in your 80s you might not be around to spend, that's a legitimate choice. It's your life and your trade-off to make. What I want is for you to make it with your eyes open, knowing it's a 30% permanent cut. Knowing the break-even, knowing nobody's survivor check depends on you. If you know all that and you still choose 62, that's not a mistake, that's a decision. The mistake is only when you didn't know. So here's what to actually do this week, no matter which person you are. 1. Go to ssa.gov and pull your own numbers, your benefit at 62, at full retirement age, and at 70. Real numbers, not a YouTube example. 2. Ask the 3 questions that decide it. How's your health and family longevity? Are you the higher or lower earner in your marriage? And do you have a bridge to wait, or do you need the cash now? 3. If you're married and you're the higher earner, treat your claiming age as a decision you're making for 2 people, not 1. Get those 3 answers, and the right age stops being a mystery. It's not about being brave or patient, it's about knowing which chair you're sitting in. So if you remember one thing, remember this. Claiming at 62 locks in a 30% smaller check for life, and whether that's brilliant or brutal comes down to 4 honest questions about your health, your income, your spouse, and your savings. Linda claims early, and she's right to. Walter claims early, and it barely moves the needle. Tom claims early, and it quietly costs his wife for the rest of her life. Same age, same form, 3 different right answers. So here's the truth, neither of those 2 guys in your feed will ever tell you. The right claiming age isn't 62, it isn't 67, it isn't 70, it's the age that matches your life. And hey, if you spent this whole video quietly thinking, I'm a Linda, or oh no, I think I'm a Tom, that was the whole point. Now you know which one, and you know what to do about it. Quick and important, this is educational, not personal financial advice. Run your own numbers at ssa.gov or with a licensed professional before you file. If this made the 62 decision clearer, do me a favor and subscribe, because the next one is the natural follow-up. Once you know when to claim, the next question is where you retire. I'm breaking down the states that tax your Social Security and your retirement income versus the ones that don't, and it's a bigger swing than most people realize. And tell me down in the comments, Linda, Walter, or Tom. I'll see you in the next one.